Hey, Girl Talk community, this is your host, Charlene, and today we have in our studio Attorney Jennifer A. Grady. Jennifer is the founder of the Grady Firm. She covers business, employment, and immigration law. She has an office here in Beverly Hills. She has one in Newport Beach and also San Diego. Jennifer can help you with all of your needs in those areas. Today, the topic that we're going to discuss is the new law here in California that talks about the independent contractor known as 1099. So come with us and listen to her, and she's going to give us amazing information about this topic. Hi, and welcome to Girl Talk. Now, Jennifer, I just want to thank you for coming in and having this conversation with Girl Talk because we're talking today about independent contractors. Yes. And 1099 and how that's going to impact small businesses. How does it impact the contractor themselves? And it's a large topic that I don't think everyone is aware of. So I invited you here so that you could explain to us in layman's terms what's going on and what we can do as small business owners to protect ourselves.
Okay, yes. Okay? Well, thank you so much. I'm very excited to talk about this topic. It is one of the biggest changes in California law in decades, and it has everybody confused and just minds blown. So we are here today to really distill this into something people can understand and can know what it is they need to do to be compliant, because the consequences are very big financially and to their business. So we want to make sure people get it right. And so this affects anyone who has an independent contractor or anyone who is an independent contractor or a freelancer or anyone in the gig economy, which is now at least 1 in 10 people, if not more, and growing every day. So this is something that's huge that the state of California really wanted to codify. So this law came out in the spring of 2018 under a case called Dynamics, which created an ABC test.
Okay.
So in the past, well, and also currently, there's another test called the Borello test, which is a bit discretionary, that the employer would have to show, meet various tests in order to show that this person is an independent contractor. Otherwise, they can get penalties, fines, both from the employee and from the government.
Wow.
Yes, so what they tried to do is make it a little bit easier by doing a 3-part test. And so some people will have to meet that, or there are exemptions, or there's various things. So what we would do today is talk a little bit about that and make it a little bit easier to understand.
Right now, so this law has taken effect as of January 1st, 2020.
Correct.
In the state of California.
Yes.
So we're only talking about California right now. We're not talking about anywhere in the country. We're going to focus our attention on California because that's where it started. Now, to have that type of law, especially someplace like California with so many types of independent consultants out there, it's almost mandatory to have this conversation.
It is mandatory to have
this
conversation, yes.
So my first question is it just for contractors here, or is this something you think is going to explode and just wind up going all over the country?
Sure. So we did say it only applies to California, but it does apply to clients that I have who are across the state who have either remote workers in California or an office here. So this actually does affect the whole country. And in terms of who else has this law, Massachusetts does. That's actually where the legislature and the courts got the test. And there are other states that do have independent contractor laws as well. So just because you're not here doesn't mean that this doesn't apply. You want to speak with a lawyer in your state and figure out how it affects you. And the other thing is that California, Republic of California, we're special over here.
That's right.
And every time we do a law, a lot of states end up following it, and that would be with same-sex marriage, with marijuana. As you can see, it starts on the left and then goes east.
To the right,
so it is very topical regardless of where you are.
Wow. Now, does this law affect every career field?
So it affects them all in different ways.
Okay.
Okay, so first I'll start with what the ABC test is.
Okay,
and so
good.
It's really trying to find out whether someone is in their own business or not. And so the law in California already was a presumption that someone is an employee. And so that means in California they're assuming that you're an employee, and it's on the employer to prove that they're not. So you're kind of already in a defensive position.
Right.
And so the ABC test has 3 points. One is that the worker is outside the direct control of the business. 2, that it is in a different line of business than what they're customarily involved in. And 3rd, that they have an independent and established business. So if I were to use the law firm example, that's kind of a classic independent contractor.
Right.
If you were to hire my firm, we are doing something that's outside your regular course of business.
Yes.
You wouldn't tell us how or when to do the work, and it's something that's outside of the control. So just as an example. So the people who don't have to meet that test are also written in the statute. So AB5, it's about 5 pages long, 8-point font. The only time I've ever had a statute on my desk on a daily basis, pretty much since December, because clients are calling every day trying to figure it out. So it is complicated, but and we can have slides at the end that would show all the different types. So ones that automatically get the exemption are attorneys, accountants, insurance brokers, dentists, so various professional occupations that require a license.
Right.
Then we have a second subset that it's a little bit different. So for if you're a marketer, graphic designer, various more things that you could do that are outside your business that you might hire to help you.
Like photographer, videographer.
Yes, and so they have to meet a 6-part test. That's to show that they have their own business, and that would be like having their own business license, having a website, showing that they have other clients. And so a lot of people ask, okay, well, do I need to have an LLC? Can I just get an LLC? And that's it, and now I've met the test. So that's only one of 6 pieces.
Wow.
So that's a lot of misinformation that I've seen going around that I just wanted to point out. And so you can be a sole proprietor. You can still get the tax write-offs, but you don't have the business protection. So we also do business law, and we recommend that you do get a legal entity. It protects your assets in case you're ever sued. So if they can show that they have their own business, then that's another one. Then we have people in the beauty industry, like estheticians, electrolysis, hairstylists, and so they would have to show that they get their own clients, book their own appointments, would have a 1099 with their salon, so that's a 6-part test as well.
Okay.
And so then if you are watching today and you say, well, I'm none of those professions, what do? I don't want to be an employee. Then we would look at the business-to-business exception. Exemption. And so that is where we would have another 6-part test to show that you have your own business, have your own, hold yourself out to other clients. So if you have only one client and you're on their site every day, that's probably going to end up looking like an employee. So if you are a marketing specialist, you would want to say, Charlene's marketing agency, have your own LLC, have a local business license, and have multiple clients.
Right.
Yes. And so then we would look at the Borello test, which is the 11-point test, and that is where we're looking at multiple factors on the whole to show that you're an independent contractor.
So correct me if in what I'm hearing to see if it's correct. So basically, everyone really needs to check in with an attorney to make sure that they are doing things correctly, because this isn't something that's easy to figure out. I was telling you earlier, I was a part of a focus group.
Yes.
And we went through this for about 3 hours, and it gave me a headache, and I felt worse when I left than when I came in, because the only thing that focus group did was just fill my head with a bunch of information. None of it was in order. It was very detailed, but very convoluted. And it just gave me anxiety because I did not understand it. So I just want our audience to know, all of our entrepreneurs,
don't feel bad.
Don't feel bad. Because our attorney has it on her desk so that she can look at it daily to make sure she's advising correctly. And as
and
an
for every
entrepreneur,
client, I read the statute with them in mind.
Right.
And I have been going to seminars at least for a year now where we have the top minds in employment law, and they don't, they're exasperated in every conference I go to. People just kind of throw their hands up. So we try to work with what we have. There are a lot of lawsuits going on right now. Some have actually started making progress, but in the meantime, we'll talk about what people can do moving forward.
Yes. So now, in this space, so number one, you need an attorney. That's the first thing, right?
Yes,
A good
qualified
attorney,
one,
a
you need to
qualified
interview them, making
attorney.
sure they're know what they're doing.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes. So now, what are the steps we need to take? So we need to contact an attorney, make sure it's a good attorney. Don't a business attorney,
Employment law.
employment law attorney.
Yes.
Okay, so we need an employment law attorney to handle this one.
Yes. And I just want to talk a little bit about the penalties so that people can understand
Yes.
what is at stake. And
Okay.
so there can be civil penalties from $5,000 to $25,000 per violation.
See, I saw that on the
Yes.
paper you gave me, and that made me put the paper here. Like,
Yes, that should get everyone's attention that this has kind of always been going on in some form or another, but now that it's in place, it's really something that we can't ignore. The EDD has been doing audits since last fall. There's government IRS audits. And the other thing that you need to keep in mind is even if the government doesn't find you, a plaintiff might. So maybe you had someone work for you and they left on bad terms, or they found out that a friend of theirs got money, because plaintiffs' attorneys are looking to bring this. It's a new area of law, kind of easy pickings, if you will.
okay, so what I'm hearing now is that entrepreneurs are exposed.
Any business.
Any
owner.
business is
Yes,
exposed, whether, even though the law wasn't in effect until January this month.
Correct. So it technically was in effect since the spring of 2018, although most people didn't know about it because
Right.
it wasn't published and the courts were still working it out. And so since January 1st, now it's official, but it can go back retroactive 3 and up to 4 years. So that is hard to accept when people weren't really on notice, but that's the way that works. And just to give you an example, I have a client there in the trucking industry, and they have people, I think, that couldn't be more independent contractor. They spend $100,000 on buying a truck. They make their own hours. They have multiple clients. They have websites, and they were already received a demand for a lawsuit from counsel. So in the meantime, the Trucking Association filed a lawsuit against the state of California to stop it and say that it didn't apply to their industry.
Right.
And so we have 2 judges that agreed with that, and so that's on hold. So this is changing on a daily basis. We have the Uber lawsuit that is saying it's unconstitutional. We have the journalists, they have a lawsuit as well. And one thing to note, if you are a freelance writer or photographer or journalist, if you write 35 or more articles in 1 year, now you would be an employee.
If you write how many?
Just 35.
Just 35?
So for some people, that can be in 1 week.
Right.
Yes. So from what I've heard is they've let people go, or that you can only do so many. So that is something that they're trying to work out as well.
Wow. So videographers, photographers, is it the
Cartoon,
number 35?
I think it's cartoonist.
Is the number 35 for all
For
across
those
the board?
particular industries.
Yeah, so it's 35, so 35 episodes, 35.
So if you were a columnist, that
Right.
wouldn't take long, or you write a daily article for the LA Times, then you would quickly get to that number.
Now, what about social media? Because social media is another area
Yes.
where people are posting for you, writing, doing all kinds of things. Do they fall under that umbrella also?
So I would look to 2 things. One is if you could get that to fall under marketing, then we would have that exemption, and you'd have to make sure you qualify for that.
Okay.
Or we might want to look at the business to business and see if it's something outside the regular course of business. You have maybe your own company, like I am a marketing and social media guru. That's how I would look to do that. So we can, again, at the end, have a list of all the people, and if you don't
Yes.
fall in the exemption, really see if you can get under the business to business exemption.
This is huge.
It is.
The more I talk to you, Jennifer, the
Yes.
more nervous I get. And for everyone involved. Now, how does this affect, like, if someone is an independent contractor with a multi-level marketing company? Because they're considered independent consultants at their company too. How does that affect that industry, or does it?
And so what would that scenario be?
Yeah, so if it's a company that's multi-level marketing, and they have independent contractors attached to their company also, each person that is signed up to do business with that company is an independent consultant who receives a 1099. So how does that work?
That's
Have
a
you
good
looked
question.
into that one?
I haven't, but I have similar ones where you may have somebody who goes out and does research or investigation for your
Yes.
work. And so that is where they're trying to catch people under prong number 2 of the ABC test, or prongs 1 and 2 of the Borello test. And that is that if they're doing work that's in the regular course of business, then and you're their only client, then probably they're going to be an employee.
Okay, so people are going to have a lot more employees than they anticipated.
Yes, and so the downside to this is that they're saying it could cost 20 to 30% more to do this, because now you have to get workers' compensation insurance.
That's right.
You have to, sign up with the EDD. You have to do payroll. You have to pay a payroll company and the payroll taxes. And so that's really why people are fighting this. Not only that, I think the number one reason is that now we've gotten into this gig economy and people really like it. And so it's not,
Right.
and they say that the bill was to prevent people from being exploited. And while I do agree with that, I don't know if telling other people how to live their lives is great, because people, I see with Uber, it's given so many people a chance to take care of a parent, a sick loved one, a child. Maybe they're an actor and they need to make money in between auditions. Maybe they're in
Right.
between jobs and they don't want to get a job while they're waiting for a new job to start. So there's so many
Exactly.
reasons why people want to have the flexibility of their own schedule. And so Uber is trying to get a ballot measure in November that would create a new hybrid type of employee, and that would give them maybe some minimum wages or minimum protections, and then the opportunity to pay into a health care program. And for entrepreneurs out there, you may want to look into Cal Savers. That is a program by the California government that's a type of 401k. And I
Right.
believe that's available now, so people can look into that. So I think where we're going is recognizing this is a part of life. It's not
Yes.
going away. and
It's
then
not
protecting
going
people.
away.
Sure.
Exactly.
Yes. And so there's absolutely not a one size fits all answer to this problem. And so this year in 2020, we're definitely going to see a lot more litigation,
Yes.
a lot more. I know the legislature has been back in session since January 6th, and they are talking about this, and they're looking into it, because there are people like musicians who slip through the cracks and it's affecting
Right.
them, and their margins are very tight. So a lot of businesses, not just the music industry, but others say, I can't afford to make them an employee. So what do I do? Am I in violation?
Right.
And so what I say to do is, if you choose to take the risk, or if you really qualify to be an independent contractor, then rewrite your independent contractor agreement. If you don't have one, you need to get one.
To get one,
Yes,
right.
and have a lawyer do it. Don't get it off the internet. This is
Please don't get it off the internet. This is way too important.
Yes.
That free document could cost you $5,000 to $25,000.
At least. So
At
lawsuits
least.
can be 100,000
Or
to a
more.
million or more, like depending on if you go to jury trial or how you settle it, and attorney's fees can be $30,000 to $100,000. So just spend $1,000 or $2,000. Speak with the lawyer. It's going to save you exponentially in the long run.
Absolutely, yes. So your clients that are already with you, that you're helping through this process,
Yes.
what exactly are you doing for them to make this process easier? This is someone who's already a client of yours. What are you doing for
Okay,
them to
and
make
for
it
a lot of
easier?
people, are brand new clients that have
Yes.
never had to work with an employment lawyer, and frankly are scared or intimidated. And I just want to put that out there. That's not what we need to be doing right now. We need to be finding someone that works for
Yes.
you, the personality you like, who cares about you and wants to help you succeed. And so that's what we're trying to do. So if somebody comes to me and says, well, I have this type of inspector and we have 12 of them and we really can't afford to make them an employee, what do I do? So then I'm going to learn a little bit more about your business. I'm going to ask you questions about your workers, and then I will send a questionnaire that's based on the law, so it has all the different elements of the law. And then you maybe will talk about that with your colleagues, or if you're on your own, you'll fill it out and send it back to me. And then I will give you feedback like, okay, well, I'm a little bit concerned there's some risk here, or, oh, it looks good. I mean, I don't think that there's any so far that I feel 100%
Right.
great about. So I will come back and say, all right, what's your risk tolerance? As we mentioned, there's the financial penalties and different
Right.
things. So you would decide, okay, well, I'm going to take the risk and move forward anyway. Then we will go ahead and develop that agreement. Or for people that do need to make the conversion, we tried to make it really easy, and we've created a packet of about 16 or so forms
Okay.
that you would use to create the personnel file. And so there's 3 different sections I divided into. One would be the onboarding, and so that is your first day of work if you've ever had a first day of work
Definitely.
with the HR manager, and they're going to give you all these forms to sign. So we create those. Then we have them for during the time of hire, so that would be like request for time off or a discipline form or request for accommodation, because you will need to learn all these things.
Right.
And then we have the time of termination, and so that is where people get into trouble if they don't give the paycheck by the last day of employment. There's penalties for that.
That's right.
And then we'll help write a severance agreement. And so the package comes with a 1-hour discussion with me, and that's where you can review them, ask all your questions, and then I'll explain how to do it so that you're at least getting that foundation. And then we have a long-term relationship with our clients over years. And so maybe they will call me and say, oh my God, I need to fire somebody today. What do I do? And so then we'll look if there's any potential discrimination lawsuits or anything like that, and then how to do it in a tasteful and tactful way. And so the one thing I could say, if anything, is people bring lawsuits when they are blindsided or they feel they were treated unfairly. And so even if you thought, oh, I treat them like family, and we had this great relationship, that changes over time based on
true.
their financial situation or what's going on. We don't know. So that's why I always like to do the discipline first in writing.
Yes.
That way they know that it's coming. So if you just fire someone
Off the
without all
cuff,
that,
without
then that's where
You
they
open
get
for
upset.
exposure,
So
yeah.
part of all these forms is to have procedures and processes, and if you have more than one employee or a group, you really need to be consistent. I have multinational clients with many offices in different states, and if they're all doing different things, then there's no consistency and they can run into problems. So I like to streamline it and make sure that it all matches and is consistent, and then you're developing some procedures and policies.
Right. Okay. Wow. That's amazing. Now, what exactly is a 1099? Let's just get that out of the way.
Sure.
What exactly is a 1099? Because everyone throws that word around. Oh, I'm a 1099. Oh, what is that?
So it's really just the IRS tax form that you would fill out at the end of the year. And so you're either going to be a W-2 employee, and so you fill out the W-2 and then you do payroll taxes, or you're the 1099 independent contractor, and then you're responsible for your own taxes at the end of the year. And some people would say, oh, just 1099 me. I prefer it because I need the money right now. And then they have a big surprise at the end of the year when all the taxes are due.
Exactly.
So don't just make that mistake because you think it's better. Always speak with the CPA and do it early. Accounting is very hard to go back and start from the beginning. So even if you're just starting out and you don't have money for one, save all your receipts, keep records of your mileage, and always speak with the CPA, especially when you are going to get the new employees. You want to make sure you're doing all that correctly.
And do it up front if you can, and if you haven't, start now.
It's never too late to start
It's never
today.
too late to start today.
Yes.
Exactly. Now, what piece of advice would you, I was telling you about someone that I know that's an entrepreneur who just threw their hands in the air.
Yes.
So what encouragement, if any, you would have for, I was listening to this and my eyes glassed over, you know? And so what kind of advice would you have for someone who just wants to throw in a towel and say, forget it?
I've been hearing that, and that makes me sad because I don't like that the law is supposed to protect people, and in the end, people might be getting laid off or not getting jobs and losing out on work. So one thing would be, again, speak with someone who can help you figure out how can you do this right. Can you work with your margins a little bit? Do you need to increase your rates? To figure it out, and first make sure, do they need to be an employee or not? And then also, if you are one that has to be an employee and you have multiple jobs, you may look into being a part-time employee at multiple places.
At multiple places.
Yes, so that's kind of one thing that I've been saying. And then the company may want to look into different tiers of benefit structures. So maybe part-time are eligible for something or nothing, whereas to be full-time, then you get the health benefits.
Right.
So, and then that's going to depend how many employees they have. If it's 50 or more, whether health care is required. But if for everyone, paid sick leave will be required in California.
Right. Well, I love your personality.
Thank you.
And there's one question I know this is going to come up because I am an entrepreneur, and we always try to figure it out. And so this is a question. What if we both put together an agreement,
Right.
and they're an independent contractor, and we come up with an agreement, and we put it in place, and we both agree that you're not my employee, I'm not your employer, you are contracted to only work with me when we work together, and that's it. What do you say to that person? Because that person is going to, I want to talk to that person specifically.
Okay, so the
that
legislature
personality
has
type.
already thought about that, and they're not interested in side deals that people have. You can't just
Right.
contract around the law, and so
Right.
that's why this comes down to the test of what are you doing, how much control is there.
Right.
And so whether or not you have an agreement, that's one of 11 factors in the Borello test, but
Right.
that's not the only factor. So it's really going to come down to the control over the work of the employee.
And there are 11 factors, not one.
So
And
there's two different tests. We have
Right.
the ABC test and then the Borello test. And
Right.
so there were certain types of exemptions, like the business to business, that we have to get through the 6 first and then look at the Borello test. So in some cases, we're looking at multiple factors, which is, again, why you need the attorney to help you out.
So now, I just want our audience to know that I wanted to thank you for
Okay.
giving me this document.
Okay.
So could you explain this document a little
Sure,
bit?
absolutely.
And so this document will be on our website.
Yes.
Because you've given me permission to
Yes.
put it on the website, thank God. And then there'll also be like a little PowerPoint presentation for our followers and community to look at. But that does not negate you're getting an attorney. Okay,
That's just
so
to let you
that's
know
just to
what
let
to
you
look
know
for.
how
Yes.
serious this is and what to
Okay.
look for. So please get an attorney. So could you tell me a little bit about this document?
Sure. Okay. So it's just a summary, a little bit about potential consequences, and then really what we're trying to do at the end of this conversation is figure out, are we going to stick with being an independent contractor,
Right.
or are we going to convert them to an employee because
Exactly.
we have to do it? And so
Yes.
if they're going to stay independent contractor, then get the agreement, and then you're going to want to have the worker prove to you that they meet all of the points.
All of the requirements.
Yes. So I'm going to put in my clients' agreements, I have my own business, here's the entity name. And the contract would be with the legal entity instead of the
Right.
individual. And then they would tell you what's their website, if they have other clients that they're holding themselves out to the public. So you'd put that in the agreement and then get copies of their business license and all of this so that you've done everything you can to make sure that they meet this. So then if we decide they need to be an employee, now we're going to have to do the onboarding, and that's going to be a lot of documentation. So first you would give them notice that they're going to be an employee. You would get a payroll company and, just do some research, make sure you get the right one.
Right.
And then you would have that first day where you're going to have an employee handbook and various forms you can distribute. And so we've created a packet, an onboarding packet for our clients to use
Okay.
just to make it simple. And then you would do your I-9. And so that is the government form that you would fill out to prove that the worker has authorization to work in the United States. So they
Right.
would either show their passport or driver's license and social security or employment authorization document. And so one thing that people need to know is that you can't just do this via FaceTime. It has to be in person. So
Okay.
if they are in another state or another city, you need to have an authorized representative meet them and inspect the documents in person. And so we do have an article on that if we can post
Okay,
that
please
has the
do.
rules
Yeah,
on
we'll
that. And that's
post
a
it.
federal document, so
Okay.
whatever state you're in, it would be the same thing. Yes, and then you would just have a set of documents to use throughout the employment process. And then if you do part ways at the end, I always recommend a severance agreement. That way you can tie that up and have expectations and hopefully eliminate lawsuits after the person leaves.
Absolutely. So I've already made my decision. Attorney Jennifer Grady, you are my attorney, and anyone who is an entrepreneur, has a business, is an independent contractor, you need to contact this woman because not only is she knowledgeable and she's had her own business for since
8
what
years
year?
now.
Since 8 years
Since
now.
2012.
And she's paying close attention to this. She's an employment attorney, which is one of the hats she wears, but she's an employment attorney, which will help to, don't just go to a regular attorney. This is not something for the attorneys that are doing lawsuits, injury lawsuits. This is specifically for an employment attorney. This is something serious. Like Jennifer said, it's not going away. It's something we as entrepreneurs and independent contractors are going to have to deal with. So let's take this serious. And I want to thank you so much for coming on and giving us this bit of information. But I don't want to give too much information because I don't want that nature to rise up to say, oh, I got this.
Yes.
I would feel much more comfortable with the people who watch my show to pick up the phone and call your office to get the information they need. Yes, you can check on the website and get the documents, see that we are doing our due diligence, but I really want them to contact you. So I want to thank you for coming on and explaining this to us in as much detail as we could palate. Is there anything else we should know about this new law that's come out? And well, what I found out that's new is that it started to end.
Yes.
In 2018.
It's already happening.
It's
so.
already happening. It didn't just start now. It's in effect now, but it can go back 4 years.
So
in lawsuits, if someone wanted
so they
to.
can sue you, and because the statute of limitations for employment law claims stretches back 3 years, and then you can add another year for unfair under the Business and Professions Code for unfair competition because they weren't paying the right wages at the time. So another thing to know is that if they are misclassified, then plaintiffs may sue you and say, well, I didn't get my meal or my rest breaks or overtime and other benefits like paid sick leave is now a requirement in California. So they're going to give you a very long demand of all these things, and each has penalties. They can get attorney's fees. So this one little thing now has ballooned into such
something.
A big thing.
Yeah, huge.
Yes. So I would say just the takeaway from today's call is you have to do something about
Yes.
it. And unless you're kind of in one of the lucky groups that this doesn't affect.
Right.
But just to be sure, we have blogs on our website at gradyfirm.com where we summarize this. We have ones about the I-9, about what to do, how to convert the independent contractor to employee.
Yes.
So there are resources out there. Maybe read up a little bit before you call the attorney so that you are aware and you know what you're looking for, and ask for a referral. Make sure that they communicate with you well. You want to make sure that you get this resolved as fast as possible, and then develop a relationship for the future with someone you can call anytime you have employment law questions.
Absolutely. And also, don't call the law office and vent all your, do all your venting, to the attorney or to her staff, because they didn't create this law. They're just trying to help us through it. So do your venting to your,
part of my job unofficially is therapist and
Right.
kind of holding
She's not
hands
your
through
therapist.
this. Yeah, but I mean, it comes with the territory, and,
Yes.
and people do really have a hard time accepting it, and so that's
Yes.
the hardest part for me. It's like, I know I agree with you, but in the meantime, I'm just here to help you and,
Right.
and prevent any more exposure.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you, Jennifer,
Okay, thank you.
for coming in. We really appreciate this. This isn't one of our normal interviews. This one, I feel, is, of all the interviews I've done, this is the most impactful. So I want to
Okay,
thank
thank
you
you.
so much for coming in and talking to us about this. So how do we contact you?
Yes, okay. So you can find us on the web at gradyfirm.com. You can give us a call at 323-450-9010. You can find us on Instagram at The Grady Firm and on Twitter at American Dream Attorney, and it's DRMATTY.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. This has been
Okay.
amazing. This is our attorney, Jennifer Grady. And I just want to thank you again for coming into Girl Talk and giving us all this information. Some of her forms are going to be on our website, so look forward to those. And I want to thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. Almost forgot. Look, we're going to put your questions in below so that we can follow up at a different time. This is a subject I'm not taking lightly. We're going to hold on to, and we really want to answer any questions that you have. So just put your questions below, and we'll make sure that we have Attorney Jennifer to answer them for you.
Thanks again.